The Tales series is one that I've played off and on over the years. Tales of Destiny 1, Symphonia, Vesperia, and Graces are the only ones that I've finished though. Obviously, Vesperia is considered the watermark of the series, and no Tales game will probably ever be that good again. I picked up Tales of Xilla 1 some years ago and played through it. I enjoyed the game a lot and was ready for the sequel. Being an old man, it is sometimes hard for me to get myself to play through games, especially a JRPG which could last 60 plus hours. I bought Tales of Xilla 2 almost a year ago and have finally gotten myself to play through it, and I'm glad I did. Before I talk about the game, I'd like to address a major issue with it. Tales of Xilla 2 is a sequel to Tales of Xilla 1, and it was made reusing assets from Tales of Xilla 1, along with new assets created specifically for the sequel. Not only does the game have you run through old areas, which in and of itself wouldn't be that big of a deal, but there's a parallel world mechanic that the game uses, so you'll end up running through the same areas over and over, just slightly different variations. The problem, however, is that Xillia 2 heavily repurposes enemies, towns, and dungeons from the first game. Hell, every party member aside from the main one are from the first game. In all honesty, this didn't really bother me for the most part, but there were a few times where I was shaking my head at the laziness. The game opens with the main character, Luger Kresnik, taking a combat training test to see if he is ready to join an elite unit for the Spurious Corporation, a company that more or less runs Triglyph City, the city you start in.
Valor and skill are two very different things, Luger. True professionals know the difference, and their limits. Just now, we were testing your ability to analyze the situation. Luger Kresnik, you failed.
He fails the trial and ends up becoming a chef for the train station instead. After getting a quick pep talk from his older brother Julius, Luger heads to the station to begin his first day at his new job. While there, he bumps into a little girl named El Momarta, who is carrying a gold pocket watch that happens to look exactly like the watch Luger's brother Julius carries. The two are at odds with one another.
Sir, you'll need to follow me to the station manager's office. This young lady just told me you tried to lure her out of the train station.
Huh?
But when a terrorist attack happens, they end up stuck together on a train. Luger quickly puts the training he received trying to join Spurious Corp to use, and starts fighting for El's life, and his.
Is he an agent? Enough of this!
He meets Jude Mathis from the first game along the way, and together they head for the front of the train where he finds his brother Julius, and a confrontation ensues. This is where the game starts getting weird.
Luger, what are you doing here? I'd expect nothing less from Crown Agent Julius. You work fast.
Enough with the games, Bakur.
Who would have known you had such a talented little brother? Aren't you the model sibling? You've protected him well.
Of course I did!
Come now. Are you sure you want him to see this?
Oh, that watch!
Look out! We will never accept peace with Riza Maxia!
What's this?
Then Jude, Elle, and Luger seemingly time travel back to where they first met on the train, but things are slightly different. They make their way to the front of the train again, and again they encounter Julius. This time they fight and Luger ends up transforming against his will, seemingly, and killing his older brother. At this point in the game, I was left scratching my head. The game doesn't explain what's going on for a few hours, so I was like, huh? Which encounter was a real one? Why did Luger transform and seemingly auto-attack his brother? Was that a parallel world? The game takes its sweet time explaining everything that's going on. Even at the very end of the game, you are still learning about what's really happening. After the train incident, Luger wakes up and finds that he, Elle, and his cat Rolo owe a combined 20 billion gold in medical bills. If that wasn't bad enough, Xillia Bakur, the CEO of Spirits Corporation, shows up at Luger's home and informs him that Julius is very much still alive and is now a wanted terrorist because of the train incident. Luger is blackmailed into helping them find his brother by the threat that he'll be considered an accomplice if he doesn't cooperate, and so his journey begins. Every playable cast member from Tales of Xilla 1 returns as a party member in Tales of Xilla 2. 2 enemies from the first game join your party to round out the cast. The members are Luger Kresnik, the hero of the story. His true power is hidden for most of the game, but he is a force to be reckoned with. A really strange thing about Luger is that he is played mostly as a silent protagonist, with you choosing what he says, but sometimes he will speak. It was really weird at times, having all of the party members chit-chat and Luger just grunts and points. Maybe sometimes he says yeah, but most of the time he's silent. Jude Mathis, one of the 2 main heroes from Tales of Xilla 1. The modest and lovable Jude has become a Spyrex researcher. When people use magic, it's a mutual exchange between human and spirit, but when people of Olympias use technology, it is a painful draining of the spirit's life force. It enslaves the being. Jude hopes to create a new form of Spyrex called Spyrite that can power technology without draining its spirit's energy or harming them. Mila Maxwell, the Lord of Spirits and another of the main characters from Tales of Xilla 1. At the end of the first game, she leaves to fulfill her duties and none of her friends have seen her or know where she has gone. She doesn't show up for a while in Tales 2, but when she finally does, it's quite the entrance. Alvin. In the first game, Alvin was a laid-back secret agent for a terrorist group named Exodus, who infiltrated your party, then later joined you for real. In this game, he's a fruit merchant trying to get his business going with his pal Jurgen. He bumps into Jude, Elle, and Luger in Helioberg and decides to help you.
I'm still young and spry. Luger, say something to the insolent womenfolk.
Elise Ludus, a traumatized little girl who was silent through most of the first game. Elise is now quite talkative and anxious to help. She meets the party while on a trip with her friends and decides to help out. Her stuffed animal companion Tipo is also with her to provide comic relief. I was kinda confused when she shows up because at this point I had no idea how much time had passed between Tales of Xilla 1 and 2. Turns out it was just a year. It seems strange that all the characters from the first game would have adapted to their new environment so quickly, but hey, it's just a game. Leo Rolando, Jude's childhood friend, is now a reporter looking for a hot scoop. While her fashion sense is questionable, her fiery passion is never in any doubt. After helping her chase down a cat that belongs to one of her advertisers, she brings her staff along to bash the skulls of monsters. Rowan Ilbert, the gentleman butler, is now King Gaius' right-hand man. He's as dapper as ever. The party encounters a version of him in a parallel world which they kill. Rowan is intrigued by this and decides to tag along so that he can figure out what is going on. He doesn't really do anything all that important during the course of the game, but his friends do get to play matchmaker with a lady they meet several times during the main story.
For the act of spreading joy is the greatest joy of all, and may all your sorrows be my sorrows.
Gaius, one of the major bad guys from the first game, is gone to Olympias undercover to examine how the average citizen lives and to better understand the hopes and dreams of the people. After receiving more information from Rowan about the parallel worlds, he decides to enter one himself. Muse. This is probably the most surprising addition. In the previous game, she went totally berserk, so it's more than a little odd having her as a party member in this game. Much like with Gaius, everyone seems to be a-okay with her being in the party, even though she tried to kill you less than a year ago. She is a weird choice to add because her character is fairly large and she has giant wings and floats all the time, but she is a welcome addition to the cast nonetheless. Tales of Xillia 2 plays pretty similarly to Tales of Xillia 1. 4 of your party members are out on the field at once. They all automatically run at the enemy and attack with physical attacks and magic. You control Luger by default, but you can use any of the party members that you want. You are even able to switch control mid-battle. You are also able to control the behavioral patterns of all your members. The carryover from Tales of Xillia 1 is the link system. Pressing the D-pad in the direction of any of your party members will cause you to link with them. Once linked, that member will fight more closely with you, and each character has a special ability that will only work when linked. This plays heavily into the gameplay because having the right party member linked to you can make the fights much easier. Luger can use 3 different weapon types in battle: dual blades for quick melee combat, guns for range, and a sledgehammer for slow but powerful hits. You can also switch between these different playstyles by pressing L1 and R2 during combat. The link system factors into this because choosing the party member that complements your playstyle can make life much easier. For example, Jude fights beside you using his fists, but if you are linked, he will automatically revive you at times. This can be a huge lifesaver. Mila will bind monsters, allowing you to attack freely for a few seconds. Alvin can break enemies' guards, and Gaius can guard you from strong attacks, and so on. The core of the combat is you have something called AC, which dictates how many times you can attack with X before you have to stop. Once you run out of AC, you will have to wait a moment for it to charge before you can attack again. As you progress further in the game, you'll gain more AC. Doing art attacks will recharge your AC, allowing you to keep attacking. Arts, or special attacks if you will, require TP and will drain with each use. You recharge your TP by doing attacks normally. So the standard flow of battle is to attack a few times, do an art or two, then attack a few more times. This way you don't run out of TP during battle. As you hit monsters, the gauge on the left side of the screen will fill up. There are several levels to the bar, and when you hit each one, you'll be able to do a linked art. Simply doing any art attack when this is flashing and pressing R2 will cause you to do a special attack with your linked party member. The attack you perform will vary depending on the special move you used and the character you are paired with. If the gauge is filled all the way, you are given enough time to do several linked arts in a row. You can also hold down X during this time and do a mystic art, which does way more damage. Holding L1 and X will use your partner's mystic art instead. The last thing is your Chromatus. It starts with just 1 level, but once you beat the game, it can go up to 4. Using this will cause Luger to change into his more powerful form and fight enemies one-on-one until the gauge is depleted. The attacks you do while transformed are different than his normal attacks and are stronger. While you can use the Chromatus at any time it is charged, it is best to save it when your party is in grave danger. Granted, you can charge it pretty fast, so sometimes it's best to use right away during a boss fight, because you might fill it back up again before you need it. The fights in this game are fairly easy, so you can mash your way to victory like I did, or you can really exploit the battle system and pull off some pretty amazing stuff. The leveling system is pretty straightforward. You kill enemies and you get XP. The previous game had a sphere grid-like system where you put points into certain sectors and unlocked new skills. This game is way more straightforward. When you defeat enemies, they drop elemental ore. Once you set an extractor to one of your characters, they will automatically learn abilities after you've amassed enough ore for each skill. The game will then automatically switch over to a new extractor, and you can keep gaining skills and attributes without having to manage anything. Unfortunately, this does not always work. I had several points in the game where my character would have an extractor equipped, but all of the abilities had been learned for it, so I had to manually change it to a different one. I'm not sure why that happened, but you might want to check that every once in a while. I really enjoyed this game. These days I tend to only play through one JRPG a year, and it tends to be a Tales game. While I probably enjoyed Tales of Xillia 1 more, I did spend a good 56 plus hours on this game, and I'm tempted to play a tad bit more. One of the things that Tales of Xillia does right, that some of the previous Tales entries have done wrong, like Graces for example, is that the characters aren't always pure good or pure evil. The game really lets you view the events from different perspectives, and you can see how various characters, some of which are villains, could be the heroes of the story in their own minds. Everyone, including the main bad guys, are just doing what they think is just and trying to save the world or their friends. Earlier I mentioned parallel worlds, and this is more or less the setup for the entire story. There are these things called convergence catalysts. When one is created, it spawns a fractured dimension where everything is similar to the main dimension, but certain events may have unfolded differently, or altered dimensions may be a few years ahead or behind the prime one.
Impressive view, yes.
Has spyrite technology been perfected in this dimension?
It has, and you perfected it 8 years ago.
I see.
But then, I killed you. Why in the world would you do that? I didn't stop at Jude either. I killed you in this dimension as well. Alvin, Leia, and even Elise. I killed you all. You tried to stop me from killing Beasley. Even Julius took your side.
When people die in the world of Xillia, their souls go to a being named Origin who purifies those souls, and then they are reborn. While there are numerous fractured dimensions and new ones constantly appearing, there is only one Origin. After thousands of years of doing his job, Origin is in danger of being overwhelmed. Each new dimension means millions of more souls that he has to purify. He is nearing his limit, and the toxins left over from the purification process are in danger of spilling out and wiping out all of humanity. Whenever anyone enters one of these fractured dimensions, the only way out is to slay the divergence catalyst. That is where Luger comes in. All descendants of the Kresnik line have the power or potential to activate an ability called the Chromatus and transform into a more powerful form that has the ability to not only enter a fractured dimension, but also to destroy the divergence catalyst. Something that only a Kresnik can do. So Luger becomes an agent of Spurious and is tasked with destroying as many fractured dimensions as he can, while simultaneously hunting for objects known as waymarkers. These waymarkers lead to a mythical land named Canaan. It is said that the first human being to enter Canaan can have any wish he wants granted. The basic flow of the game is that events will take place in the real world, and every now and then Luger will get a call on his cell phone telling him that a new fractured dimension has appeared, and he needs to take care of it. Luger's progress in the game is gated by debt. After the train incident, a 20 billion gold medical bill has been left on his tab. Every now and then, when you have enough money, a childhood friend named Nova will call you and tell you to pay up. Paying the cash promptly will earn you special items, but I don't think it's mandatory. After a certain invisible amount has been paid and you've made enough progress in the story, new areas will become available to you.
You've already repaid 5 million gold! You're
Going there unlocks story missions, side quests, dungeons, etc. Speaking of side quests, there are two major types, Kitty Dispatch and the Job Bulletin Board. Kitty Dispatch has you sending Rolo, Luger's pet cat, out to hunt for other cats and treasure. There are 100 cats in total that you can find. Some can be found in towns and dungeons, and others can only be attained from Kitty Dispatch. You send Rolo out, and after a few minutes, which I believe is decided in real time, Rolo will come back either empty-handed or with items. You can also give your cat snacks, which will shorten the length of time it takes for him to come back. At first I was really digging this system, but towards the end of the game it started to get on my nerves. The randomness of the items he brings back can drive you insane. You may end up in a situation where you need one specific item that you can only get from Kitty Dispatch to craft a weapon, and Rolo will fail to find it 5 times in a row. Other times he may find what you need on the first attempt. It's just the luck of the draw. The Job Bulletin Board is where you get side quests. It's mainly just item fetch quests, but sometimes you'll get story related stuff. You also get information on rare monsters that you can defeat for bonus cash. The Kitty Dispatch ties pretty heavily into the Job Bulletin Board because a lot of the side quest items can be found via Dispatch, and some can only be found via Kitty Dispatch. You also have minor side quest things like the Coliseum where you can fight against monsters for prizes, character skits that appear from time to time, and an in-game dungeon that pops up after you beat the game. The story overall was pretty good. It's nothing all that memorable, but it was entertaining all the way through, and there were plenty of story beats and plot twists that I didn't see coming. Although there is one fairly obvious event towards the end of the game, which I think is supposed to be an oh my god moment, but they foreshadow it so heavily throughout the game that it ended up being exactly what I figured it would be. But there are plenty of pretty cool moments, like when Mila returns to your party, or when Bigsley Bakur does his manly punch.
Take this fist and punch you all to oblivion!
The story does fail in a few areas for me, one of which is Elle. Now, while I didn't dislike Elle as a character, the game is going for the moe, little girl, big brother, father figure, protector archetype thing with Luger and Elle. Personally, this does nothing for me and is a tad bit creepy. I didn't feel any strong bond for Elle, so when the game tries to tug on my heartstrings at the end, it totally fell flat for me. There are just so many gaps in the main storyline that you won't understand unless you beat the game, do all the side quests, view all the skits, talk to all your party members in town, and so on. It just seems more than a little odd that every main character who isn't a party member knows everything that's happening, but they don't tell Luger what's going on. Hey, I get it, it's a 40+ hour game, so you have to stretch out the mysteries, but narratively, it's a little weird. In closing, I really enjoyed Tales of Xillia 2 and would recommend it if you like JRPGs. You don't have to have played the first game to like this one. Even though I had played the first game, I was still confused on a lot of the things that had happened and had completely forgotten the fates of certain characters from the first game, but it was still okay. While this won't go on anybody's list of greatest RPGs of all time, it's another solid Tales game.
You guys, what just happened?
What if two of the same thing?
I give Tales of Xillia 2 3 bazongas out of 5.
Demon Fang! Demon Fang!
Oh man, that killed my confidence.
No matter. It's not how you wield it, but the size of your blade.
Maybe we should stop comparing.